नमस्कार दोस्तों, आपके और हमारे ऑनलाइन यूट्यूब चैनल नर्सिंग कैरियर क्लब में आप सभी का स्वागत करते हैं। हमें पूरी उम्मीद है कि आप सभी ने हमारा पिछला वीडियो ज़रूर देखा होगा। यदि किसी कारणवश नहीं देख पाए हैं तो डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में दिए गए लिंक पर क्लिक कर ज़रूर देखें। यदि आपको हमारा वीडियो पसंद आता है तो इसे लाइक, सब्सक्राइब एवं शेयर ज़रूर करें। तो आइए आज हम बीएससी नर्सिंग फोर्थ ईयर के सब्जेक्ट मिडवाइफरी एंड ऑब्स्टेट्रिकल नर्सिंग के यूनिट 7 के बारे में बात करते हैं। यूनिट 7 का नाम है हाई रिस्क प्रेगनेंसी असेसमेंट एंड मैनेजमेंट। पर्टिकुलर यूनिट में से भी आज हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं प्रेगनेंसी इंड्यूस्ड हाइपरटेंशन। इसके ऑब्जेक्टिव्स निम्न प्रकार हैं। फर्स्ट, डिस्क्राइब प्रेगनेंसी इंड्यूस्ड हाइपरटेंशन. Second, define preeclampsia and discuss about incidence of preeclampsia. Next is explain about diagnostic criteria of preeclampsia. Next is enlist the risk factors of preeclampsia. Next, explain the pathophysiology of preeclampsia. Next, enlist the types and clinical features of preeclampsia. Next, describe the investigation and enlist the complications of preeclampsia. Next, describe the prophylactic measures and explain the management of preeclampsia. Next, define HELLP syndrome. Next, explain the management of HELLP syndrome. Next, enlist the complications of HELLP syndrome. Next, define eclampsia and discuss about its incidence. Next, enlist the risk factors and clinical features of eclampsia. Next, explain the causes of convulsion, onset of fits and stages of convulsions. Enlist the organ dysfunction and complications of eclampsia. Explain about investigation of eclampsia. And next, explain about the management of eclampsia. So, these all are the objectives of pregnancy-induced hypertension. Now let's start our topic, pregnancy-induced hypertension. Let's start with introduction. Pregnancy-induced hypertension is the term. Pregnancy-induced hypertension is defined as hypertension that develops as a direct result of gravid state. Gravid means pregnancy state. So, if hypertension is present during the pregnancy period, then it is known as pregnancy-induced hypertension. So, this condition includes gestational hypertension, preeclampsia and eclampsia. Preeclampsia and eclampsia are the most important condition to be understand during pregnancy-induced hypertension. So, let's start with preeclampsia. Preeclampsia definition: it is a multi-system disorder of unknown etiology characterized by development of hypertension to the extent of 140 by 90 mm of Hg or more with proteinuria after the 20th weeks in a previously normotensive and non-proteinuria women. So, preeclampsia is a multi-system disorder in which hypertension is present to the extent of 140 by 90 mm of Hg or more, and along this proteinuria is present after the 20th week of pregnancy in previously normotensive and non-proteinuria women. So, this is called as preeclampsia. Incidence is about 10% in primigravida and 5% in multigravida. Now, let's see about diagnostic criteria of preeclampsia. So, diagnostic criteria of preeclampsia, we need to check for hypertension, proteinuria, edema. So, first is hypertension. So, for hypertension, we need to check an absolute rise of blood pressure of at least 140 by 90 mm of Hg. If the previous blood pressure is not known, or a rise in systolic pressure at least 30 mmHg or diastolic pressure at least 15 mmHg over the previously is called as pregnancy-induced hypertension. Second, edema. So, pitting edema over the ankles after 12 hours bed rest or rapid disappear weight gain more than 1 IB a week or more than 5 IB a month in later month of pregnancy may be the earliest evidence of preeclampsia. And next is proteinuria. So, presence of total protein in 24 hours urine of more than 0.3 gram or greater or less than 4 hours is considered significantly. So, risk factors, primigravida, family history, placental abnormalities, obesity, pre-existing vascular disease, new paternity, thrombophilia. So, these all are the risk factors for preeclampsia. Next is pathophysiology. So, in normal pregnancy, angiotensin II is destroyed by angiotensinase enzyme which is liberated from the placenta. So, vascular system becomes refraction to pressure agent like angiotensin II by increased synthesis of prostaglandin and nitric oxide which acts as vasodilator. Now, let's see about clinical types. So, clinical types of preeclampsia is mild and severe. For mild, diastolic BP is above 90 mm of Hg but less than 110 mm of Hg. Systolic BP is 30 mm Hg above the pregnancy reading in early pregnancy exceeds 105 mm Hg. And in severe, systolic BP more than 160 mm of Hg or diastolic more than 110 mm of Hg. Proteinuria greater than 5 gram per 24 hours, oliguria less than 400 ml per 24 hours, platelet count less than 1 lakh per mm cube, HELLP syndrome, cerebral or visual disturbances, iusia. And clinical features, preeclampsia, warning signs and signs. For warning signs, we can see some of the characteristics like severe headache or blurred vision, second, nausea or vomiting, third, dizziness or double vision, fourth, excessive swelling of the hands or feet, next, decreased frequency of urination, next, rapid pulse. So, these all are the warning signs and we can see signs. So, for signs, abnormal weight gain, raised blood pressure, edema and pulmonary edema. We can see mild symptoms and alarming symptoms. So, for mild symptoms, slight swelling over the ankles, swelling may extend to face, abdominal wall, vulva and even the whole body. And for alarming symptoms, we can have headache, diminished urine output, disturbed sleep, epigastric pain, eye symptoms, blurring visions. Now, let's see about investigation. So, we can do urine, blood values. So, for urine test is done to identify proteinuria. Proteinuria, 24 hours urine collection for protein measurement is done and blood values in serum uric acid level of more than 4.5 mg per TL indicates preeclampsia and serum creatinine level may be more than 1 mg per dl. Other we can do is ophthalmoscopic examination and antenatal fetal monitoring. In ophthalmoscopic examination is done for retinal edema, constriction of arterioles and there may be hemorrhage. Antenatal fetal monitoring is done by clinical examination, daily fetal kick count and ultrasonography for fetal growth. Now let's say about complications. So complications may be immediate or remote. For immediate complication, we can see maternal complication. In maternal complication, we can see during pregnancy. So their pregnancy, there may be chances of eclampsia, accidental hemorrhage, oliguria and anuria, dimness of vision and even blindness, preterm labor, HELLP syndrome, cerebral hemorrhage. During puerperium, eclampsia or shock may be present, and fetal complications may be intrauterine death, intrauterine growth retardation, asphyxia, and prematurity. And remote complications may be residual hypertension, which may persist after the 6 months following delivery in about 50% cases. Then recurrent preeclampsia. There is 25% chance of preeclampsia to reoccur in subsequent pregnancy and due to familial diathesis. Next is chronic renal disease. So high incidence of glomerulonephritis in women with preeclampsia remote from term, and there may be risk of placental abruption. So our practice question number 1 is urine examination is done in preeclampsia to detect first edema, second proteinuria, and third hypertension. So urine examination is particularly done in preeclampsia to detect proteinuria. Our answer is second, proteinuria, as we had already discussed in slide number 20. Now let's see prophylactic measures. So first is regular antenatal checkup. So antenatal checkup is done regularly for detection of rapid weight gain or tendency of rising blood pressure. Second is antithrombotic agents. So low dose aspirin 60 mg daily beginning early in the pregnancy, it reduces platelet thromboxane production. And heparin is useful in women with thrombophilia and high risk pregnancy. We can give calcium supplementation like 2 gram per day. It reduces the risk of gestational hypertension. And we can give balanced diet which is rich in protein. So now let's see about management of preeclampsia. So for management, following are the objectives of management. So first objective is to stabilize hypertension and prevent its progression to severe preeclampsia. Second is to prevent the complication. Third is to prevent eclampsia. Next, delivery of the healthy baby in optional time and restoration of health of the mother in puerperium. So we can give rest and proper diet to the mother for management, and diuretics, antihypertensive drugs we can give. So here is the table regarding to the medication that we can give to the pregnant lady during preeclampsia, which includes labetalol, hydralazine, nifedipine, nitroglycerin, sodium nitroprusside, and its dose schedule, maximum dose, maintenance dose, it is given in the table. You can just have a look. So now let's continue with our management. So for management, we see methods of delivery, and we do induction of labor and then cesarean section. So management during labor, during labor we can progress the labor with the help of the partograph, and abdominal and vaginal examination should be done at regular intervals. Bed rest should be given in first stage of labor. Cord shut the second stage of labor with using prophylactic forceps, and metharzine contraindicated in third stage. HELLP syndrome, this is an acronym for hemolysis, elevated liver enzyme and low platelet count, that is less than 1 lakh per mm cube. It is rare complications in preeclampsia, and this syndrome develops even without maternal hypertension, and its symptoms are nausea, vomiting, epigastric pain, right upper quadrant pain, along with biochemical and hematological changes. There may be subcapsular hematoma formation and peripheral blood smear. So management can be done with anti-seizure prophylaxis with magnesium sulfate, Anticorticosteroids are given. Cesarean section should be done. Epidural anesthesia can be given if platelet is more than 1 lakh per mm cube. Platelet transfusion if count is less than 50,000 per mm cube, and recurrent risk of HELLP syndrome is 3 to 19%. Expectant management is done when pregnancy is less than 34 weeks with bed rest, plasma volume expansion, antithrombotic agent that is dipyridamole, anti-immunosuppressant that is steroids, and others fresh frozen plasma can be given. Complication of HELLP syndrome are abruptio placenta, cerebral edema, pulmonary edema, laryngeal edema, ARDS, sepsis, acute renal failure, severe ascites, retinal detachment, subcapsular hematoma, and finally death. So our practice question number 2 is platelet count in HELLP syndrome will be less than 1 lakh per mm cube, less than 10,000 per mm cube, less than 1,000 per mm cube. So our answer is first, less than 1 lakh per mm cube, as we had already discussed in slide number 34 that platelet count in HELLP syndrome will be less than 1,000 per mm cube. Less than 1 lakh per mm cube. So now let's discuss about eclampsia. Eclampsia is a rare but serious conditions where high blood pressure result in seizures during pregnancy. So eclampsia is a serious complication of preeclampsia. Onset may be before, during, and after pregnancy, most often during the second half of the pregnancy, and following seizures there is typically either a period of confusion and coma. So definition, preeclampsia when complicated with generalized tonic-clonic convulsions or coma, it is called as eclampsia. So incidence is different from country to country and even between different zones of the same country. So it is more common in primigravida, that is 75%, 5 times more common in twins than in singleton pregnancies, and occurs between the 36th week and term in more than 50%. So this is all about incidence. Now let's see risk factors. So risk factors are primigravida, family history, placental abnormalities, obesity, pre-existing vascular disease, thrombophilias. Clinical features of eclampsia are also same like that of preeclampsia, except on rare occasion an eclamptic patient always shows previous manifestation of acute fulminating preeclampsia, like increased blood pressure, weight gain, proteinuria, pedal edema, facial puffiness, headache, disturbed sleep, decreased urine output, epigastric pain, eye symptoms. Now let's see about causes of convulsions. So the cause of cerebral irritation leading to convulsion is not clear. The irritation may be provoked by anoxia or cerebral edema or cerebral dysrhythmia. So for anoxia, a spasm of the cerebral vessels lead to increased cerebral vascular resistance, and these lead to fall in cerebral oxygen consumption, and finally anoxia occurs. Second is cerebral edema, so it may contribute to irritation. And third is cerebral dysrhythmia, it increases following anoxia or edema. So there is excessive release of excitatory neurotransmitters like glutamates, and this is believed that this is responsible for convulsion. So onset of fits, there is 50% chances of fits during antepartum period, 30% chances during intrapartum period, and 20% chances in postpartum period. Now let's see about stages of convulsions. So the fits consist of 4 stages, That is, first stage is premonitory stage, and in this stage the patient becomes unconscious. There is twitching of the muscles of the face, tongue and limbs, and eyeballs roll or are turned to one side and become fixed. So this stage is last for about 30 seconds. Second stage of convulsion is tonic stage. In this stage, the whole body goes into a tonic spasm. The trunk, opisthotonus, limbs are flexed and hands are clenched, respiration ceases and the tongue protrudes between the teeth. Cyanosis appears, eyeball become fixed. This stage also lasts for 30 seconds. Third stage is clonic stage. In this, all the voluntary muscles undergo alternate contraction and relaxation. The twitchings start in the face, then involve one side of the extremities, and ultimately the whole body is involved in the convulsion. Biting of the tongue occurs, breathing is stertorous, and blood stains, frothy secretions fill the mouth. Cyanosis gradually disappears and this stage lasts for 1 to 4 minutes. Now let's say about final stage, that is the stage of coma. In this, following the fits, the patient passes on to the stage of coma. It may last for a brief period or in others deep coma, persist till another convulsion. On occasion, the patient appears to be in a confused state following the fit and fails to remember the happenings. Rarely, the coma occurs without prior convulsions. So here you can see organ dysfunctions because of the eclampsia. So eclampsia and preeclampsia. So here is a table, and you can see cardiovascular organ dysfunction, hematological organ dysfunction, renal organ dysfunction, central nervous system organ dysfunction, and hepatic organ dysfunction. So in cardiovascular organ dysfunction, you can see generalized vasospasm, increased peripheral vascular resistance, decreased CBP, decreased pulmonary waist pressure, and in hematological you can see decreased plasma volume, hemoconcentration, coagulation disorder, increased blood viscosity. In renal, we can see decreased GFR, decreased renal plasma flow, and increased serum uric acid. In central nervous system, you can see cerebral edema, cerebral hemorrhage, and posterior parietal and occipital lobe reversible. Encephalopathy syndrome, basal ganglia or brainstem lesions, that is rare. In hepatic, you can see liver cell damage, periportal necrosis, subcapsular hematoma. So now let's see about complications. So maternal complications, we can see tongue biting, aspiration, head injury, CNS damage, intracranial hemorrhage, renal failure, injuries due to falling from bed, psychosis, shock, and death. Fetal complication, prematurity, IUGR, and fetal death. So we can see our practice question number 3, that is premonitory stage of eclampsia lasts for 1 to 4 minutes, 5 to 9 minutes, and 30 seconds. Our correct answer is third option, 30 seconds, as we had discussed in slide number 49 that premonitory stage of eclampsia lasts for 30 seconds. So investigation, same like preeclampsia, we can do urine to see proteinuria, ophthalmoscopic examination for retinal edema, constriction of the arterioles, blood values for serum uric acid level, blood urea level, serum creatinine level may be more than 1 mg per dl, there may be thrombocytopenia and abnormal coagulation profile, hepatic enzyme level may be increased. Management, let's see about management. First is supportive care. So, supportive care is needed to prevent serious maternal injury from fall, prevent aspiration, to maintain airway, and to ensure oxygenation. That is fluid balance we can give. RL fluid is the first choice. Normally, it should not exceed 2 liters in 24 hours. Second, antibiotics you can give to prevent infection. Broad spectrum antibiotics is given. Third, we can do specific management. For specific management, we can give anticonvulsant, that is MgSO4. Magnesium sulfate is the drug of choice. Its loading dose is 10 gram and 4 gram is dissolved with 12 cc distilled water. Then IV slowly over 10 to 20 minutes. Then 3 gram IM in each buttock. Its maintenance dose is 2.5 gram IM in alternative buttock 4 hourly up to 24 hours from the last convulsion or delivery, which comes later. So magnesium sulfate can be given only if the knee jerks are present. Urine output exceeds 30 ml per hour and the respiration rate is more than 12 per minute. Other regimens are lytic cocktail using chlorpromazine, promethazine and pethidine. Diazepam we can give, phenytoin we can give, antihypertensive and diuretics we can give. Commonly used are hydrolazine, labetalol, calcium channel blockers or nitroglycerins. So this is all about management. So this is all about pregnancy induced hypertension. एंड अगर आपको हमारा ये वीडियो पसंद आता है तो इसे लाइक, सब्सक्राइब एवं शेयर ज़रूर करें। इस वीडियो से रिलेटेड अगर कोई भी प्रॉब्लम हो तो डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में जाकर आप हमें कमेंट कर सकते हैं। सो थैंक यू वेरी मच।